Hello everyone and welcome to my movement speed tips video. Today I have 3 tips to help you with your movement speed in Bannerlord. Now recently I've noticed an increase in the amount of comments asking for help with some of the more simple mechanics in the game. So this will be the first of a series of short tip videos covering some of the more requested mechanics. If there's something in the game you want some help with, then please leave a comment below and I'll add it to the list of things to go through. Now first of all, for movement speed, where do you check your movement speed? So that would be down here. You can either check it by hovering over your army, and it will tell you right in the middle there, speed 5.2. If you want to check an enemy's speed, it's the same place really, speed 4.9. So these looters will be able to catch them because we're going 0.3 faster than they are. You can also see it down here. Now, if you hover over it, it will tell you a breakdown of your current speed. So base speed is the combined average speed of everybody in your army at a base level before any buffs or modifiers. So this base speed will decrease the larger your army is. There's an inbuilt debuff, you could say. I can't think of a better way of putting it right now. You'll find as your army gets bigger and bigger and bigger, even if you have a horse for every person that's in the army, your speed won't increase beyond a certain point. And that's done deliberately to make sure you don't have 1,000, 2,000 strong armies just zipping around the map everywhere. So your base speed will reduce the larger your army is. So if you find yourself with 300-400 men in your army and you can't get your speed up to 7, there's a reason for that. It's actually done that way on purpose. So we've got a base speed of 3.8. We get a bonus for having cavalry in the army of 0.71. So the more cavalry you have, the more bonus we get. There is diminishing returns on that though. There is a point at which you stop getting bonuses from that. Footmen and horses. So that is for every footman that we have a horse for them to ride, which we'll cover in a second. So we're getting a bonus from that as well. Nomadic traditions. Nomadic traditions is actually a riding perk. Riding 75 perk, which gives you plus 30% increase bonus from footmen on horses. So that's an extra bonus from the above stat that we're getting because we've got nomadic traditions. Cargo with incapacity, that's giving us a minus 0.02. I'll explain more about that in a little while. Sweeping wind is a scouting perk. No, it's not. It's another riding perk, actually, sorry. Riding 100 is sweeping wind, 2% party movement speed. And day traveller is a scouting perk, which is the 25 plus 2 travel speed during the daytime. There is the opposite perk you can have, plus 5% during the night time, but the nights are a lot shorter than the days, so there's not much point in you doing that. And you get a massive debuff on your speed as well at night time, so it doesn't make any sense for you to take that perk. So now we know where to check our speed, and we know why we want fast speed. So fast speed helps us get around the map quickly, it helps us chase down parties, it helps us get away from armies that we don't want to fight. We'll now look at what we can do to make our speed better. So my speed currently is 5.2, but if I go into my town here and I stash away all of my horses, there we go, you will notice that my speed has immediately dropped. So now we're at 4.6. You will notice that the nomadic traditions perk has gone, the footmen and horses perk has gone. So we've lost both of those things now, so our speed is now 4.6, which is still, to be honest with you, respectable, but that is because half of this party is cavalry, pretty much, for the most part. That's why we're still quite fast. So if I go in here, let me just see how many infantry we have. We've got 66 and 45, so that's 111 troops that we have. So if we want to get the full bonus from having horses, what we need to do is open our stash and take 111 horses out. Now I've got 3 types of horses here. So the steppe horses are the ones from the Gazette, so they're sort of the lowest tier Gazette horses. The Midlands Palfrey is the lower tier Empire horses. And not even going to try and pronounce that one, they are the low tier Aserai horses. Now I wanted to show you that there is no difference depending on what type of horse you take. So you just have to take a horse. So if I take such as 50 of these guys, done, you'll see my speed has gone up to 4.89, and we're getting a 0.19 and a 0.06 footman on horses and nomadic traditions bonus. If we go back to our stash, put those horses back. Those are the fastest ones, by the way. So they give us a total of 4.9. And we take some of these ones. We're still at 4.9. Even though the Palfrey, if you look at its speed, it's 47. And that one's speed is 54. So it does not matter which horse you use, which horses you have. They just have to be ones that your men can ride. Now that is signified by this little symbol here, where it's got a little plus and a horse next to it, and it says used for increasing speed. If you look at mules, you will see that they've got a little bag and a plus. They're used for carrying goods. So they will never increase your speed. And there's another horse called a sumpter horse, which also will never be used to increase your speed, and they also have the same symbol there. So it doesn't matter where you get your horses from, whether they be Khazate horses, Empire horses, or Aserai horses, they will all increase your bonus you get from them is the same. The only difference is when you're actually in combat riding them. Just to show you there, look, we've now got Khazate horses in there, and their speed is 45, which is just a little bit less than the Palfreys, but we're getting the same speed bonus. So that's how horses work in the game. Any horses you've got in your inventory that are not assigned to people, like down here, they will be used for your footmen. If you've got an equal number of horses to the footmen that you've got, you'll get the full bonus that's available to you. So that was 111, wasn't it? So let's take 111 horses. So we should be getting the 4, 1, and 12. I can put in another 20 horses. We're not going to get any more. That's the point at which we get the maximum bonus. But it is always handy to keep extra horses with you, just in case you get your steward skill up, can have more soldiers, and then you can obviously already have the horses there for them, because having to run backwards and forwards to buy horses is annoying. On that subject, the cheapest place at the start of the game to buy horses from, some of you may recognise this map and this particular character, Kilam. He's from my current playthrough on Nightly Plays, our Aserai only campaign, of which we are doing very well. The cheapest place to buy horses from at the start of the game is here in Askar. I don't know why, it just always has been. So a lot of people, what they'll do is they'll do tournaments around here, do quests around here until they reach about 10 to 15,000 gold, and then they'll head straight down here to buy 100 horses. Because at the time they're about 160, I think, at the start of the game. The Khazates are in second place with their steppe horses, they're pretty cheap at the start of the game. The Empire and Valandian horses and the Sturgian horses tend to be more expensive at the start of the game. So that's just some general advice on where to get your horses from. Tip number 2, know your perks. Now, there are several perks in the game that will help you with your movement speed. Unfortunately, I can't turn those off and on and show you, but what I can do is show you where they are. So the first 2 are in the riding tree. So they're these 2 here, look. So you've got nomadic traditions, and that's the one we were talking about earlier on, where you get a 30% increase in the bonus you get from footmen on horses, which is really good, because at the moment that's giving us a 0.06 bonus. So that's just a straight up movement speed bonus. That's great. Next up is sweeping wind. So plus 2% to party speed. That's just a flat bonus that you get. And again, sweeping wind is giving us 0.08. It's just a nice little bit to have if you're not a horse archer and you don't need carrying capacity. So that's your first perks to increase your movement speed. The rest of them are pretty much all in the scouting line. There are some in tactics that say movement speed, but I have tested them and they don't mean movement speed, they mean combat speed. So combat speed is when you're actually in a fight, how fast you move, not how fast you move on the map. So we get Day Traveller, which is plus 2 speed during the daytime. Pathfinder, plus 2 travel speed in steppes and plains, which is where you're going to spend most of your time. And then you've got a choice. So you can take Desert Born, which gives you plus 5% travel speed on deserts and dunes, or you can take Forestkin. Now, I would say, as an Aserai player, Forestkin's more useful. Because when you look at the map, desert is limited to here. Forests, that's like 80% of the map is covered in forests of one type or another. And from a tactical perspective, if you get a bonus to your movement speed, I appreciate that it's a bonus on the debuff, not a bonus to your movement speed, but still, if you're moving faster through forests, that can work in your advantage. One, if somebody runs into some forest to get away from you, you can chase them down because you can move faster than they can. And the opposite is also true. If you're trying to get away from somebody, if you head for the forests, you're going to move faster than they are, and that's going to help you get away from them as well. And there are certain parts of the map, such as here, where you go through this gap in the mountains, that you don't have a choice but to go through the forests. So, especially if you're in combat around here, best to have that perk than not. The number of times you're going to be in the desert is going to be very, very slim. So, there's not much point in doing that. And for the absolute nutbars that want to try chasing down the steppe bandits, up these parts, then that's up to you. But even the Khazate lands, a good 30% of it is forested. Normal area counts as plains. It's only these outboard areas here that count as desert. And you can see that in your thing down here. So if I actually go to the desert, there we go, that should do. Apparently the Northern Empire wants war. Don't you only have 3 towns left? My bad, too. Anywho. Right, so we're heading through some forests now, so you can see we're taking quite a nosedive on the movement speed. So the forest is reducing it by 1.14. So that's not great. And that's where that perk, reducing that penalty, would come in handy. And then once we get to the desert, it'll change again. Well, I can't show you that debuff because it's not even kicking in. But it kind of proves my point. You're going to run into forests a lot more than you're going to run into deserts. So you're better off having the forest type. So moving swiftly on. Next one is Forced March. So if your morale's above 25%, you get a 2.5% travel speed. That's just a freebie. Absolutely take that. And then the last one is 275, Uncanny Insight. So that gives you a 0.1% party speed boost for every skill point above 200. So once you get here, you're already 75 points, above 200. So that puts you at a 0.75 boost straight off the mark. Which if you look at anything else, a 0.75 boost is actually quite big. That's the same bonus almost that we're getting from being almost 50% cavalry. So that's a huge increase in speed. Tip number 3. Be aware of the things that slow you down. There are many, many things in Bannerlord that will slow you down. And as long as you're aware of them and you know how to read this panel down here, you can take action to offset them. For example, right now we've got a cargo within capacity. And that's only a minor debuff, but that can get quite extreme if you do actually get too much cargo with you and you're getting the overburdened penalty. But I'll show you how to fix that in a second. I've already showed you going through a forest gives you a big negative modifier. Nighttime, as it approaches now, you'll see our speed will reduce quite exponentially. There you go. So nighttime's taken almost a whole point of movement speed off of us. So now if I go into my keep and my stash, we're at 3.9 at the moment, and we've got a 0.02 cargo within capacity. I'm pretty sure if I take this to less than a certain point, we should lose that. There you go, it's gone. So by dumping all my food and all my equipment, I've managed to get rid of it. You can do some fettling and figure out exactly what percentile it is of your overall sort of capacity before you get that penalty, but that penalty is not really a lot anyway. So I wouldn't worry about it. 0.02 is not going to break the bank. However, you can get something called a herding penalty. So you can see that I've got a 0.44 herding penalty. And that's because I have more horses or more animals than I do troops. So if you ever get a herding penalty, the first thing you want to do is start getting rid of things that aren't really relevant to you. So I'll get rid of a couple of horses, a couple of stacks of horses, sorry. And there we go. Our herding penalty is gone. Herding is 1.5 per troop, I think. We can test it. It's going to be a bit weird because our cavalry, they don't get the same allocation of animals that the troops do. But we can do a quick test now. So we've got no herd penalty here. 10 more horses in. No herd. No herd. No herd. Nope. Nope. I'm doing it 10 by 10 because I don't know at what point it's going to switch over, and it might be the initial thing will just be a decimal, so we might not see it actually happen. There you go. So 0.03 herding. Take 5 off. It's gone. 1 back. There you go. So how many horses do I have here? I have 42 mules. 117, 4, 7, 2, 100. 26. So that gives me a total of 298 animals against 196 troops. Yes, it's just over 1.5 before you start getting the herding penalty. That's one of your main debuffs you want to start worrying about. Also, a huge one. I don't know if I've got any prisoners. I don't. So another big one is prisoners. Prisoners give you a massive movement penalty. In the early game, I can 100% appreciate why you'd want to take prisoners and sell them for the few thousand gold that you get. In the later stages of the game, such as where we are now, where we've got a couple of fiefs, a couple of castles, not hurting for money in any way, we don't need that couple of thousand gold. Being able to move faster and freer means a lot more to us than taking the prisoners. So my advice on general movement and keeping your party moving quickly is stop off at towns and sell excess gear often, especially excess food, because that will weigh you down very quickly. Food weighs a lot more than equipment does. Don't take prisoners, because they're not worth it. Unless it's the lords, obviously take the lords, but everything else just get rid of. You can level up soldiers quite quickly. There's not much point in you dragging around 200 prisoners. They're just going to slow you down. They're going to stop you from being able to engage in combat on your terms, and it's not going to be good for you. Avoid going into woods, deserts, and things like that when you don't have to, unless you've got the perks. Oh yeah, almost forgot. If you're Battanian, you get a bonus to moving through the woods as well. So if you get that, plus that reduction in the debuff for moving through woods, you can go through them like they're not even there. It's quite cool, actually. And that's pretty much it as far as movement's concerned. 1.5 animals per troop. Stay away from the woods. Watch out for herding. Watch out for prisoners dragging you down. And the last tip I'd give you is if you take a whooping, but you survive, and your party is moving away from the battle, or even if you retreat, because if you go into a battle, say this place was being sieged, and somebody was attacking the siege camp, and I jumped in and helped them, but the battle was not going my way, I can choose to retreat from that battle and take my troops away. In doing so, any losses I suffered during that fight will still be losses, so I may now be carrying more horses than I need. So the best thing for me to do would be to discard those horses to stop people being able to chase me down. So after a battle, specifically a battle you've just lost, we've lost a lot of men, before you start moving anywhere, before you unpause the game or start moving time forward, always check your movement speed. And if you've got a herding penalty, a prisoner penalty, get rid of the prisoners, get rid of the excess cattle and horses, just to make sure you can run away. And that'll give you the opportunity to get away as opposed to being imprisoned. If you are imprisoned, you will lose most of your items, if not all of your items. You will lose all of your horses, which can be an absolute nightmare, especially if you're like me and you're carrying around 200 horses now. Going around all these little towns and picking up horses at 9 and 12 a time and trying to refill 300 horses is just maddening. Just be aware of that when you lose as well. And now I'm rambling, so I'm going to end the video here. Thanks for watching. If you found it useful, then subscribe to the channel, leave a like. And if you think of any other mechanics that you want me to talk you through, I've got over 1,000 hours in this game. I've been in it since the original release. Just ask, and I'll take you through what I know. And with that, I'll see you next time.